A bad thing? I mean, we usually think of affection, spoiling, and pampering as the ultimate expressions of care, right? But today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating medical case study that proves, well, sometimes the absolute most dangerous thing you can give someone is exactly what they want.
Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a triumph of surgery, the case of the overindulged dog. It's this charming yet totally cautionary tale by veterinarian surgeon James Herriot, featuring a practical vet, a deeply doting owner named Mrs. Pumphrey, and her intensely overindulged dog, Tricky.
Okay, picture this. When the vet first spots Tricky on the street, he is just absolutely shocked. The source text actually describes the dog perfectly. It says Tricky had become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage with a leg at each corner. Wow. His eyes are bloodshot, they're roomy, and he can barely even walk. We're basically jumping right into the symptom phase here. And clearly, this is an animal in severe physical distress. So you gotta wonder, what did the owner, Mrs. Pumphrey, actually think was wrong? Well, she made a massive, though completely well-intentioned misdiagnosis. She noticed Tricky was, as she put it, listless, meaning he just completely lacked energy and enthusiasm. Now, Mrs. Pumphrey looked at her wildly overweight dog, who literally couldn't muster the energy to move, and incorrectly assumed, oh no, he must be suffering from malnutrition. It's a classic case of seeing exactly what you want to see. Instead of realizing he was drastically overfed, she honestly thought he was starving for energy. And because she thought he was malnourished, she put him on a so-called malnutrition diet to build his strength back up. And just listen to this. Between his already massive regular meals, she was feeding him malt, cod liver oil, a bowl of Horlicks at night, and because he seemed weak and, she just couldn't bear to refuse him, cream cakes and chocolates. Honestly, no way, right? The absolutely crucial point here is that Tricky's condition wasn't some complex medical mystery. As the vet notes, Tricky's only real fault was just sheer greed. He'd never been known to refuse food and would literally tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night. Well, unsurprisingly, Tricky falls seriously ill. He refuses even his absolute favorite dishes and spends all his time just panting on a rug. The vet steps in and firmly declares that Tricky absolutely must be hospitalized for a fortnight to be kept under observation. And what follows is it's an incredibly dramatic departure scene. Absolute chaos. The entire staff is roused. Maids are rushing in and out, carrying his daybed, his nightbed, his favorite cushions, toys, rubber rings, separate breakfast, lunch, and supper bowls. As the vet drives away to save his patient, Mrs. Pumphrey is literally crying and throwing an armful of the dog's little luxury coats through the car window. It just paints this incredibly vivid picture of the suffocating, humanized luxury this animal lived in. Right, so let's look at the actual medical intervention. Once Tricky arrives at the surgery, the vet implements a strict yet incredibly simple regime. First, no food for 2 days. None. Zero. Second, plenty of water. And third, pack integration. That's the whole shebang. There is no complex surgery, no heavy medication, no specialized equipment. The vet simply strips away the suffocating layers of human pampering and forces Tricky to experience a stark, completely natural contrast to Mrs. Pumphrey's lavish lifestyle. And let me tell you, things change fast. After 2 days of just fasting and water, Tricky discovers the true joys of the pack. He actually starts to show interest in his surroundings. By the time feeding time comes around, he quickly figures out that if he falls behind, he's going to lose his meal to the other dogs. For the first time in his entire life, he has to actually run and fight like a tiger for his share of the food. He joins in their friendly scrimmages, getting bowled over, tramped on, squashed. He is finally simply being a dog. He's receiving absolutely no medicinal treatment, and it's doing absolute wonders for him. Now, the source material beautifully contrasts these two worlds happening at the exact same time. On one side, you have Mrs. Pumphrey hovering anxiously in the background, ringing the vet like a dozen times a day for the latest bulletins. She's obsessing over whether his cushions are being turned regularly, if he's wearing the correct coat for the weather. She is entirely fixated on this fragile, human-like medical recovery. But on the other side, the vet's reality is just completely different. Tricky is just running around all day with a shaggy crew of household dogs, hunting rats in the old henhouse at night, and having the absolute time of his life. But Mrs. Pumphrey, well, she simply cannot help herself. When the vet casually mentions the word convalescing, meaning recovering from an illness, she just goes into overdrive to enrich Tricky's blood.
She sends this absolutely absurd recovery care package to the veterinary surgery. She starts bringing around fresh eggs, 2 dozen at a time. Then the bottles of wine begin to arrive. And finally, if you can believe it, she sends fine brandy. She genuinely, honestly believes a dog needs the diet of an affluent 19th century aristocrat to regain his physical strength.
Now, here is where the source material injects some brilliant, really tasteful humor. What actually happens to all that luxurious food and drink? The vet writes about days of deep content, but actually, scratch that, he's not talking about the dog. Tricky didn't get a single drop of it. Instead, the veterinary staff happily intercepted the care packages. They started their mornings with an extra egg, enjoyed 2 glasses of wine during a ceremonial lunch, and finished off luxuriously round the fire with the fine brandy. I mean, no wonder the vet jokingly admits it was a real temptation to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest. However, duty calls, right? After a fortnight, the vet summons Mrs. Pumphrey to collect her pet, and the physical transformation is staggering. In just 2 weeks, the bloated sausage has been completely transformed. The text describes him now as a lithe, hard-muscled animal. He's keeping up well with the pack, stretching out in great bounds, his chest almost brushing the ground. It's a total 180-degree reversal of his previous listless, sickly state. Which brings us to the climax, and really the brilliant irony of the source material's title. When Tricky leaps from the vet's arms and into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap, she is just overjoyed. Tears shine in her trembling eyes and she cries out, "Oh, Mr. Harriet, how can I ever thank you? This is a triumph of surgery." And this just brilliantly illustrates the central disconnect. She genuinely credits this miraculous, complex surgical or medical intervention for a cure that was actually brought about by nothing more than common sense, a couple of days of fasting, water, and simple canine exercise. Now, the source text doesn't just want us to passively read this narrative. It asks us to actively analyze it. Think about the vet's approach for a second. Was he tactful or just full of common sense? By not lecturing Mrs. Pumphrey and just, silently fixing the problem behind the scenes, did he do the right thing? And consider Mrs. Pumphrey herself. The text prompts us to evaluate her behavior as silly and foolishly indulgent. Can actions meant purely with love actually cause tangible harm to others? The text is really asking us to evaluate the real-world consequences of treating an animal like a delicate human child.
Which perfectly sets up our final thought for this explainer. The text provides one absolutely killer question at the very end that elevates this from a quaint story about a dog to a mirror reflecting our own human behavior. Do you think there are also parents like Mrs. Pumphrey? It's a powerful, provocative thought, isn't it? When does protecting, shielding, and indulging someone cross the line from love into actual, tangible harm, stunting their ability to survive and thrive out in the real world? Think on that for a bit. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And as always, keep questioning the world around you.